My name is Helen Valentine, Hyden, Kentucky. The name of my story is The Three Sillies. My aunt told it to me. Once upon a time, there was a young man traveling around, and it was coming dark, and he had to have a shelter. He come to a farmer's house, and they was just getting ready to have supper. And he knocked on the door and asked him if he could stay all night, and she said, well, of course. And they told the girl to go down in the cellar to get some buttermilk. She went down, and she just about had her pitcher full, and she looked up and saw an old rusty axe sticking up in the ceiling. Oh, and she started crying. She just let the buttermilk run out. And after a while, the mother got uneasy about her, and she went down to see what's the matter. And the buttermilk was all run out on the floor, and she said, well, what's the matter? And she said, see that axe sticking right up there? Said, supposing someday I'd come down here to get buttermilk, and the axe would follow me. She said, oh, how dreadful that would be. And the mother sat down and started crying, and so did the girl. Well, after a while, Father come. He got uneasy, and he went down, and he saw both of the women sitting there, and he asked what was the matter, and the mother said, see that rusty axe sticking up there? Supposing someday our daughter should come down here to get buttermilk and it would fall on her. And he went over and started sitting down too. And the stranger got worried, and he went down to see what was the matter, and he went down, and he turned the buttermilk was in a big barrel, and he turned it off, and he asked him what was he all crying over, and the man said, see, the old rusty axe sticking up there, said, supposing someday our daughter should come down here to get milk, as she was a while ago, and the axe would fall on her. Oh, how dreadful that would be. And the stranger reached up and pulled the axe down. He said, I've traveled many places, but said, you all are the three sillies I ever heard. Well, he stayed all night there that night, and he left in the morning. He was traveling along, and he said, before he left, though, he said, I'll be back, and I'm going to travel around a while. And if I see any people sillier than you, I'll come back and tell you. Well, he was traveling that morning. He come to an old woman, and she had her old cow up on. She was trying to get her to walk up the ladder to get on top of the house to eat the green grass. And he said, but she wouldn't walk up it, and then finally she tied a rope around the cow's neck and stuck it through the chimney, and she had a hold of it. And the cow started to fall off the house, and it jerked the woman up the chimney and left the cow hanging there. And the farmer thought, well, there's another silly, but I don't think she's half as silly as those others. Well, he traveled on. It was getting dark, and come to an inn, and it was all full up. And they said, well, we can't give you a room by yourself. It said, we can give you one with another man. He said, well, just so I get a place to sleep, it's all right. And they put him in, and they slept all right. And next morning he got up and was ready to leave. And this other old man, he said, oh, only one reason I just dread to get up in the morning, said, because I have such a hard time putting my trousers on. And the farmer said, well, why don't you just put them on the right way? He said, the only way I know is to put them on, and well, he had them hung up on the bedstead of trying to jump into them. He said, and this old man showed him how to put them on. And he was traveling on, and that night he come to another little village, and he saw some people with rakes and hoes and shovels next to a river, and he said, what are y'all doing? They said, we're trying to rake that big piece of cheese out of the river. And he said, why, don't you all know that's just the moon reflecting on the river? And then he started back to these three sillies' home, and he told them he had traveled a long way, but they was the three sillies he had ever seen.